Hey guys, so this is a video that I've been hoping somebody else would make, but for some reason nobody seems to have done anything on how to replace these things. Now, if you don't know what this is a 3-stage lifter, riser, telescopic rising arm, whatever you want to call it, from JAYCO. This one I purchased from Brisbane Camperland. It's about $100. So I don't know why there's no videos on anybody showing me how to do this. I haven't done it before, but I'm going to give it a crack, and I thought, well, I'll take you along the way. Now, it's not going to be a instructional video because I really don't know what I'm doing. I just thought I'd give you some ideas on how I did mine, if it works, and I'm going to try and break down one of these and try and give a little bit of insight. So it's really just a video about what I wanted to see and the information that I would like, and just giving me a bit of the insides to these. Let's see how we go. So I've levelled the camper. I'm going to wind up the roof, but now I'm lucky enough that my camper still winds up and down. If yours doesn't, then you're going to have to obviously find a way to get the roof up to the normal height, and then we'll have to chop the roof with some timber which I bought from Bunnings, which I'll show you a bit later on, so we'll get the roof up. Okay, I've got the camper set up, I've got the bed supports in, steadies down. I've got 4 of these roof support safety poles, so I've put them in. Normally JAYCO only give you 2, but I bought extra ones. I haven't set up the top of the beds because I figure I'm going to have to climb up on the mattress, but just make sure you do put the supports in, because you don't want to climb up there definitely when there's no supports. So now we've been racking our brain as to how we're going to sort of support the roof, because I'm sort of thinking, well, we need to wind the winch down. So we end up going to Bunnings and bought some bit of this timber, real pine. It's a 2.4 metre length I bought, and then cut it in half, and then I basically jammed it up inside that lip. If you can see there, it's where the rubber seal sits, and it does actually sit on that when the roof's down. Now that piece at the top there where the awning's bolted to, that frame, is aluminium. It is actually pretty strong, so it's not fiberglass on this model. I don't know about all the models. This is a 2016 model JAYCO Swan. So I've put in my support poles. I have 4 of these, so I've put them in as well just for a bit of extra safety. Right, so I've put my timber up, just compressed the rubber seal there, so it's now touching the aluminium inside, and then I simply marked at what level down here with my pen and cut that off to that length. So now we can just slot that in there, and it's now inside that lip. Right, so I've measured the thickness of this piece of aluminium here. It's around about 5mm, so I'm going to use that to hopefully put a piece of wood on the side and help retain that. So the cutoff from a half of a piece of 2.4 pine, we're basically going to try and utilize that to help lock the top piece of timber into the roof so it can't slide out. So we're going to take an offcut, the idea being that I want to have that attached here, so we end up sandwiching that piece of the roof in between these 2 pieces, but we need a little groove cut out so it will slot in quite nicely. So I've marked my offcut, got about 50mm down here, and then a bit more than 5mm just there, so obviously it's got clearance. Now we'll cut that out. So now with the timber back in the roof, we'll just put a line across here, and that will tell us how far down we need to put our other little piece. So this is the line we just drew, and this is the piece we cut out before. So we're going to match up the edge of this with that line. So then, when we screw this together, a piece of roof will actually go in there and get trapped, so it can't move sideways. And that's what we've ended up with. Let's go give it a fit. Okay, we'll see if we can fit this in one-handed. As you can see, shove it up there, tuck it in here. Alright, that was pretty good. Roof's feels pretty sturdy. Okay, well, it's supported really well. I'll try and get up and take a closer look at that. Alright, so as you can see, it's trapped the roof quite well. It's got support up here on the biggest part of the aluminium. It is on the rubber, but it is pretty strong. And then it's also trapped in here, so this should hopefully control any sideways movement. And as I say, this is aluminium, so it is actually really strong. This is what your awning's screwed into, so it's designed to take some load, obviously. So after making 4 supports, I thought it would be a good idea if I could tie in the base of my supports to the rest of the risers that I'm not working on. So to do that, I've just drilled a hole about 50mm up around the cable tie. Now the problem came at the top because of the clip that I used to actually have the roof tie down point. Now all I've done is just notched out the top here a little bit. Just allows me to get it over and get this piece straight, so I can get the base in nice and tight with the cable tie. So I've marked this one on the other side, but you can just see you could only need to cut it down to the height of the main riser, and then there's still plenty of lip left to go inside. So as you can see here, even with the cutout, there's still plenty of lip to grab. Right, so I've got my 4 supports in, cable tied, as you can see, and they were all different at the top. One I didn't even have to cut. So yeah, definitely do measure, but just grab this. You can see the roof is not moving around at all, so it's definitely secure. So I'm actually going to be changing this riser first. This is the left rear one next to the winch down here. Mostly because the bottom portion is exposed under the awning, and I go to the beach a lot, and it doesn't matter how many times I lubricate it, it still just sort of went rusty. So it's something I'm going to make some covers for, but I've decided to just replace the riser. I did have this one did foul on me one time and come out, and I found it very handy to stand on the bed here to actually lift the roof up, so to get this back in. So the other side, the other end down there, is the awning side is also susceptible to the same thing, and it's got some surface rust, particularly at the back where I just can't get to. So I'm going to replace actually both of those, but I'm going to do one at a time, just to not bite off more than I can chew, because I don't know what I'm doing. So this is the other end under the awning, and you can see that's got some minor surface rust there that I've cleaned up a couple of times, but it just keeps dragging. But anyway, let's head inside now and just see what the winch condition's like. Right, so in the back of the Swan, 2016 model Swan, you've got the dining table and the winch being at the rear. The winch is under this seating area, so we need to remove this panel, which has 2 screws, one about there and one about there, and that will allow us to pull up this whole panel. Okay, so we got the panel off and come down and have a little look at my winch. So the cables actually don't look too bad. This has got a little bit of a twist here, but they actually look pretty good. It's been a little while since I've been in here, and I lubed the crap out of everything when I was in here. As you can see, there's grease everywhere, but it's better to be over lubricated than under lubricated, I think. Okay, so we're inside, and I'm just going to give you a little rundown on my take on how the winch and the cables work. Now I say my take because nobody's taught me anything, it's just what I've sort of figured out, so it all could be wrong, but I'm just going to go through it anyway, what my thoughts are on the way it works. So I've got my screwdriver here, I'll put some tape on it so you can see it, because it's getting darker. Now this is where your winch handle comes in, turns the smaller cog which drives the larger one, which then there's obviously the large cable which goes through and is secured into this plate, which has the 4 eyelets and the 4 cables that go to each 4 corners of your van. So now these eyelets aren't joined, they're not welded shut, they're not supposed to be. This is the fuse, this is the thing that gives way when you have a problem somewhere else. So they should look like this, but if there's the cable slips off a cog or wheel, something binds up, gets tight, this is what you want to give way, not break a cable or the riser or another part. This is easy to replace, and if you needed to you could probably fix it in the field, but if this is bending then there's another issue. So yeah, so mine are actually looking pretty good, so that's good. Now I think it's pretty obvious how to most people how a winch works. It winds and pulls in the cable which pulls the other 4 cables, but that's a pulling action, and one thing that I always wondered was how that is converted into a lifting action, because obviously the cables don't go out to the top of the roof and pull it upwards, do they? So obviously your cable, when you wind the winch and the roof up, the cable is moving this way. It's being pulled towards the winch, all 4 cables. So this is that same cable coming from the other side of the van. It's gone from the winch around a pulley and goes around here and goes around another pulley. Now this cable is pulled in this direction away from the corner. So the winch has pulled it, it's gone across the side of the van, around a pulley, back through here, and the cable's still pulling. So it goes around another pulley and then goes inside this metal tube. Now inside here it goes all the way down and is attached to the bottom of this pusher spring. So this spring is like a solid spring that will not compress, but it can bend, it can flex to go up around this corner. So when the cable is pulled, it goes around this pulley and it's pulled this way. It's attached to the bottom of this spring, so the spring moves this way. So when the spring moves this way, because the spring can bend, it goes around this corner, it can follow this path and goes up the side of the van. So this shows another view of our pusher spring, which is going around this little corner, the little slide, and then it goes up into the side of the van. Now inside the van, the side of the van, is the bottom of our telescopic riser, which is shown here. Now this normally is inside the wall and comes down. Now that spring travels up through the telescopic riser, and it can only stay in the riser, it can't go anywhere else, so it pushes your roof up. Now as you can see, there's only 2 screw holes in the bottom of this thing, and they line up with these two. So they should be the only two screws stopping this sliding up out of the wall. So I've just set the camera up just so you can see the winch. I'm just going to go outside and I'm just going to wind down onto the timber supports. So I'm only going to go a little tiny bit. I just want to just sort of see that they're taking the weight okay. But I thought I'd record it and just see if you can see just a little bit of movement in the winch and the cables. Obviously I'm going down only a little tiny bit, but you might just get to see a few things move, and it might help your understanding of how it all works. So I've only gone 1.5 turns and I've got slack on the cable. As you can see, 1.5 turns and I've got a lot of slack on the cables. I don't want to go too far because I don't want them coming off the rollers or doing all sorts of crap. They're already sort of turning. So I'm gonna see if I can get the thing out. Well, with the winch wound down and the cables loose, the roof is still feels solid as, so I'm pretty confident undo that top bolt now. Okay, so I hope you can see there's the top bolt. This little plastic cover covers the nut. There's a bunch of silicone scraped off there, and then it looks like there'll be a spacer there. So I'm gonna get a spanner for that, and then there's a blade screwdriver for there, would be the good. Okay, so I've wound my winch down 2.5 turns, but that's actually all I can get down, so I'm going to have to come down a lot more just to get it out. So I'll go back inside. Right, now the problem that I have here is I need to wind the winch down more to get the telescopic riser out that I need to change. Now, I really don't want to keep winding the winch down because obviously the other 4 corners, the push springs are not coming down all by themselves because I guess they've got no weight of the roof now to bring them down. If I keep winding the winch down and putting slack on all these cables, I'm worried they might come off the pulleys because, as you can imagine, they go all around the van to all 4 corners. They go through a lot of pulleys, so I don't want to make these too slack. So what I thought I could do is just disconnect the individual cable to the corner that I'm working on. That way I can leave some tension on the rest of the corners, so hopefully those cables will stay where they're supposed to be. So to do that, I know that this cable here is the one that goes to the corner I'm working on. So I'm going to pull that one tight. Now I can feel that's loose, that's loose, that's loose. This one's tight, so this is the one that I undo. So I'm going to measure the amount of thread that I've got here so that I can put this eyelet back exactly where it is, which I need to adjust these anyway, so it's not so critical, but it's better to start from where I know it works. So I'll measure that, then I'll take this eyelet out, and then I'll carefully then see if I can push that telescopic riser down, which this one should be allowed to just freely move but retain a little bit of tension hopefully on the pulleys, and certainly on the rest of them should be okay. So as I said, I haven't done this before, so I'm learning as I go, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've got this nut back dried off, so it's pretty obvious it's gonna shoot and disappear up through this cavity. So I tied a bit of twine to it. It's my camp light, so you can see in here, 'cause it's a bit dark. So hopefully you can see just under its own weight the spring over there, and obviously the riser outside is coming down all by itself with nothing. So I'm just got it wrapped around the seat frame here. Just let it go down till it's sort of comfy, and then I've got it restrained there so I don't lose it up the hole. And I'll go outside and just check, see how far down it's got. But first I'll just tie this off a little bit, and yeah, I'm kind of thinking, well, after doing that I could almost just retension the winch a little bit, and put some tension back on these, but they're fine. Well, let's go outside and have a look. Okay, so it's getting a bit dark out here, but you can see just by doing that it has actually fallen quite a way, so I'm going to have a crack at undoing it. So as we discussed before, these must be the screws. Get that thing out now. I don't seem too tight. Let's get one out. Okay, back outside. So yeah, so anyway, we're outside. Got razor blade. There's some silicone around here, which I'm going to just try and sort of nip away. Which looks like it's try not to cut the canvas. Now, I know with some of the old style ones, they have a plate that comes out either side here with a couple of screws, so I don't know why they went to this style, but anyway, that's JAYCO. Now I've got a little scraper here too to get in. This was just one from Bunnings. I think it was about $5 or $6, but it hopefully get that down the back, perhaps. On the canvas, no. Okay, well, let's just try and see what's involved. Oh, it looks like it's trying to come. Feels boingy. So obviously pulling on the plastic stopper is not ideal, but I'm replacing this one anyway, so I'm not really too worried if the end comes off, because then I'll put some pliers in here and I can grab the whole thing and reef it out. So if I don't have to break it, I won't. But okay, we'll need some more cutting. Ooh. Hole. Oh, yeah. Actually, I bought a knife for this. I should use that. Okay, got my knife that I bought for this. Ooh, that's better. Goes in there. That's better. Ooh. Okay. Oh, she feels loose now. Whee! Okay. Now, that's loose as a goose. Now, there's probably going to be a lot of grease on the spring, which may go everywhere. Now, I've got grease all over my stuff anyway, but I'm just going to go get a bit of something to put behind here, just to keep it from getting worse, I guess. Okay, so I've got a bit of cardboard now behind there. So in theory, a pusher spring should only be somewhere around about here, because it doesn't go into the third extension. So let's see. So I should be able to pull it up and hopefully get all the pieces out. Ooh. There she is. It was just slimy. Now, there she is. So, this is a little spring. You can see the top has a dome. And that's it. It literally just poking its little head out. So we can now go get the new one. So we've got our old riser out. This is the old riser here. You can see that's left over is the silicone. That's where it's sat in the top of the body. And then there's two screws down the bottom. And that's, as you saw, was pretty much all that was holding it in. One thing I have noticed is with the old one, if I roll it over, you notice this tab here. Yeah, so this tab here. If I roll it over, you can see that there's only one there, and then on the new one, roll it over, you can see there's a tab on both sides, and you see both of these are slightly different. So this is a much better setup, because when you have a problem where these things pull out, it's usually because this actually lets go. So this piece comes out of there, this whole piece comes out, or the stopper on the other end of this, which is further inside here, that comes off and falls down, and then this piece comes out with that piece staying. Now I'm going to do a more of a breakdown on these. I'm going to pull one apart, but I'm going to do that in a different video, just so that I can sort of try and explain it a bit better and show you how they work. So for now, our lengths are the same. So it looks like a bit of an improvement, but everything else looks very, very similar. So I'm happy to go ahead. One thing that did grab my attention down the bottom where the screws go is these screws are they're just crappy old self tappers, really. There's nothing special about them, but there's no thread in these, so they seem like they're just a pressed hole, to be honest. So this does not want to fit in there very easy compared to those, so I'm just going to start those off and sort of cut them in while it's out, rather than trying to grope around in the van in the dark and with all the grease and all the other rubbish. So there are holes on both sides, so I've just got to remember, I'll mark which side I pre-cut these into, so that I know I'm trying to make it a little bit easier for myself. So I just made a bit of a discovery putting the screws in. just noticed that the screw heads actually they're actually a smaller than what I would call a conventional Phillips head. So the one on the left is what I would say would be just like a normal size Phillips head that you get. These on the right hand side is a finer, more tapered. Hopefully you can see that. I can show you what I mean by better purchase. This is one of the factory screws. So if I put that in there, you can see it just falls straight off. If I put that one in, it will actually hold it. So you had a much better purchase with something a little bit finer tipped. Anyway, this might save you munting it up, or just replace the screws. It's not that hard. The other thing about recutting the thread for the screw, and also something to take note of when you're actually reinstalling the lifter, will be that the middle section will actually come right down to the hole. So you need to make sure that that's the way, so you're not chewing up any of the plastic. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put some tape around the top now, so that when I install it, it's not hard down like that, but it's actually just up a bit, so I can put the screws through and I don't damage any of the plastic. Okay, so I've marked the side with out, which is the opposite side that we screwed the screws into, because obviously the screws go in from the inside, so that way I know which way round to get the riser inside. The other thing I've done is I've marked this level here, which is where I know the top of the body should be, so I know that's how far down I need to get this thing so the screws will line up. And then, as I talked about before, I put a cable tie on this one so it can't go down, so that when I'm installing my screws, there'll be nothing fouling where I go for the holes. Alright, before I fit the riser in, I want to just clean. There's not really a lot of silicone around here, but I've got a bit of wax and grease on my rag, and I'm going to clean just a little bit of the canvas, but just make sure there's a nice surface around here. It's just easier to do it without the riser being there. Obviously you don't want to get too much grease on you from the spring, but yep. Now, because we're going to install this, and then we're going to need to seal around the edge here, and it's going to be really hard to get down the back without getting it all over the canvas. I'm going to put a bit of tape there, masking tape, just so I can pump the goob in after and then let it dry, and hopefully the tape will just come out and leave a nice seal down there, and I won't have it everywhere, but we'll see how that works. But it's easier to put the tape on now than trying to get it in later, I think. Anyway, let's see. So I just thought while I got it apart, we're just trying to have a bit of a look down the hole. As you can see, it doesn't look like there's much down there at all. Alright, so we go sliding this in at the outside. Slide it in there. Put it on the cardboard in the hole. Try and keep it vertical as possible. This looks like it's going in right. So it looks like, you can see it there, I'll just give this a little just up. So the top extension is actually already touching on the top of the push spring, so that's a good thing. So I can slide the rest down. Just forward a bit. gone straight down to the line, so that's a good thing. You can see there. Hopefully you can see the little line that I put on before. So I'm going to go in and try and put the screws in. Okay, I'm going to have a go at putting the screws in. Unfortunately, I don't think the camera's going to let me get there. I don't know, I can't even feel anything that's even there. But it feels nice, almost too easy. In anything. Oops. It almost feels too easy. I'm going to go outside and give it a tug upwards, because it's almost like it's not even going in. It's just too easy. Okay, well, they were going in. You just have to keep going. So I'll just give them a pull and want them out a bit more, but yeah. Apart from being in an awkward position, and I've got grease on my hands and the camera's in the way, now I've got the right size tip on the screwdriver. It's actually not that bad. Plus I'm using my left hand and I'm right-handed, so yes, it really it's a bit slow, but right. So I'm not quite home yet, but they're definitely in. I went outside and tried to lift the riser out of the body, and it definitely was solid. So I'm going to just move the camera and then get in there with my right hand and just tighten these up properly, because they're, I don't think they'll need to be cranked within an inch of their life. Just yeah, just enough so they don't rattle out. Alright. Okay, so screws are in. I didn't want to over tighten them too much, because I think you just strip them pretty easy. So yeah, we'll go outside. Right, so it actually looks like I didn't even need this cable tie, because where the lifter spring was coming to, it holds all this up out the way anyway. But still, I don't know, it was still better to be safe than sorry, I think. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. This is in nice and secure, and obviously it's going to need some silicone, but and then we've got up the top here, we're still short of the roof. So I could just lift that up and bolt it on like so, but I think I'm going to go inside, I'm going to reconnect the cable, and I'm going to wind the winch up and let the winch take it up for me, and I know it's working, and I know it's going to get to the right height, so I don't know, give that a crack. So in just hooking up that cable and just pulling it back through inside, it's riser's almost lined up with the bolt up the top, so I'm just going to lift it up another 20 mil and just hook it on. So we need to make sure you haven't lost, this is a spacer, and I just realised this bit is actually loose as well, so if yours falls out, that's where it goes. But hopefully I can just take the nut off and slide mine on, and thanks for coming. So interestingly enough, the bolt did not just slip straight through the hole. The thread was actually getting caught on the plastic at the top. It actually goes through the metal and then through the plastic, has a hole in it as well. So I had to just wind it through with a screwdriver, and it's actually snug. It's cut a thread in there, and it wasn't difficult to do, but it actually won't come off without the nut, which I guess is a good thing. But it just yeah, I was expecting the bolt to just go straight through, but anyway, it wasn't too difficult. But yeah, just something to be aware of. So I've got the nut on. We've just got to put this cap back on. I'll do it a bit later when I silicone around the top of the riser, but I'll probably half fill it with silicone and then just push it on. It's a good idea to put it back on, just stops the nut from rubbing on the canvas or doing any damage. Okay, so I've slowly wound the winch up, and just every sort of quarter of a turn I went inside and just checked that the winch cable and everything inside looked good. It wasn't all bound up, and it all looks mint in there. So I've done that till I've got to full extension. So this is where I'd normally have it. It's probably a little bit tighter than I normally would wind it to, but it's I just want to make sure that we're getting lift. So in theory, you got me, this should come out. Ta-da! That out. So it's doing its job. So it's on its way. So I'm going to pull the others out, pull the other timbers out, and give it a bit of a cycle up and down and see how we go. Right, so I triple checked that all the timber was out, all the stays were out, the cupboard was down inside, there's no broom handles sticking up to go through the roof and all that sort of stuff. So 3 times went round, just make sure that there's nothing gonna actually get in the way of winding the roof down. Now I've only come down, as you can see, sort of just a bit more than halfway, mostly because I actually want to change the other riser at the front, but due to the other video that I'm going to do, I pulled apart the brand new riser so to show you guys inside. So I wanted to just leave my beds out and leave it so that it's sort of in a situation where I can easily put it back up and just put all the timber back in and go again. But obviously I can't do that until I've done the other video, so we're doing that first. Now my roof, it came down really nice. I checked it, made sure that each corner was coming down even. I was just making sure that it was coming down nice, smooth, nothing was getting snagged. It come down beautiful. It's probably nicer than it did before. So I'm just going to wind it back up and then go back inside, and I'll double check the cables again and have another look what's going on. So the little green cable is not a stopper, it is just to give you an idea of the tension that you need to have, so you know you're sort of there. The clang that you hear halfway up is normal, so just don't be confused with that being a problem if you've got one of these things. So it's just the cable changing direction on the winch as it gets to the end and then it falls off. That's all it is, so it's nothing to worry about. But it is why I lube my cable that's on the winch drum so that it can roll off and on easy without too much friction. So double checked the winch inside, cables, everything looks really nice. So I'm really happy with that. So obviously we've got a silicone the nut cover up top, which we talked about. Got to put some silicone around the base here. I'm going to use white Sikaflex and lubricate the riser. Lubricate it all with a dry lubricant. So there's heaps of stuff available, stuff just from Bunnings or auto hardware stores, whatever. It's just make sure you lubricate it, keep lubricating it, because I think that's the biggest thing with these campers is people don't lubricate them enough. Yeah, so I'm not going to seal this now because I've got the other one to do at the front, but I can't do that yet simply because I got to pull apart a brand new riser to do the other video, which will show you the inside of one of these things. So hopefully we can all get an understanding of how it works and yeah, why they break and what breaks when it does that. So as I said at the beginning, this video is not a how-to video. It's not designed to show you how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. This is just me groping through it and showing you what I did. It's a video that I wanted to see. I wanted somebody else to make this video to show me how to do it, and I couldn't find anything anywhere. So I just thought, well, I'll give it a go and I'll make something, and hopefully it can educate people to whether it's something they want to have a crack at or they should leave it to the professionals. It is potentially dangerous. Obviously there's a lot of weight in the roof. If you get it wrong, the thing can come down, squash you. So I don't recommend, unless you're really confident, to try and do it yourself. It was more, this video is just about giving you an idea of the workings of it, so you can see as it's just questions that I wanted answered when I bought this thing. I'm trying to figure out myself, and it's the same reason why I'm going to pull apart one of these risers, a brand new one, because it's the same thing. It's answers that I want to know or wanted to know, but nobody had any videos. There was nothing on YouTube. So again, yeah, stay safe. Don't attempt anything like this if you're not 100% confident. Make sure everything's super safe. This is just what I've done. I've no knowledge of doing anything like this on these before. Maybe I've done it all wrong. If I've done it all wrong, let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's something you could improve on. As I say, it's my first go. I've just groped my way through it. Try to make it as safe as possible. It seems to be working really good. I'm going to do the other one tomorrow after I do this other video. And yeah, hopefully it gives me many more years of good service. So thanks guys, and catch up with you later.